Happy Tuesday, Miami Dolphins fans. Welcome into Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, where we are live before NFL Week 16. 3 more games to go for the Miami Dolphins in the 2024 season. That may be a good thing, potentially, and how you're feeling. Or maybe you want more and are rooting for the improbable to happen in Miami to somehow still make the postseason, because there still is a 22.4% chance, which we'll talk about on today's show. But we have a lot to talk about on today's show. We have injury news to break down on Grant DuBose, Bradley Chubb, Jaylen Waddle, a rumor out there potentially on Mike McDaniel being fired. Could he be replaced? And who are the top 5 replacements for Mike McDaniel? But also, I'm going to talk about a potential target for the Dolphins in NFL free agency, as well as a potential talking point throughout the offseason on a Tyreek Hill trade. Now, those are not rumors by anyone out there. They are just ideas from me, but I think we need to talk about it, and it will be discussed throughout the offseason as well. But welcome in. Hopefully everyone's having a good Tuesday. I am Nic Rohloff. Shout out your city for me down in the comments section. Let me know where the real ones are watching from. We got 88 people in the building on this Tuesday afternoon. Austin is in the building. Ty Man in Ohio. Daniel saying Greer needs to go for sure. Ashley saying good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well. We got Jack in Hollywood, Florida, Ryan in Philadelphia, Deshaun in Fresno, Dallas from BSM, Raul in Miami, Kristen Reinhardt's in Miami, or excuse me, the Bay Area. South to West is in San Jose, California. Ponyboy is in West Palm Beach. Listen, I'm actually shocked. I got to be honest. Usually our live shows over the past couple of weeks have not had the largest viewership in the beginning of the streams. They do pick up and get across 100 midway through usually, but we're up across the triple digits early today. Dolphins fans are intrigued on what we're talking about, and I got to be honest, it is a juicy show, Cullen. We got big-time injury news to discuss. We got Mike McDaniel replacements, and we got a Tyreek Hill trade discussion to have. It's an important day and in a lot of different conversations to have. We have Dolphins fan forever in Miami. Damon is in Queens, New York. Colin, how are you doing today?
Listen, man, we're talking sports. It's always going to be a good day in that regard, but obviously for the Dolphins, it's kind of bleak right now. But we're going to go over, they're still not eliminated yet.
There is a path to the postseason that is far-fetched, but isn't that far-fetched. Like, there is one path in my opinion. There's multiple ways the Dolphins could get in, but I think there is one clear path. I don't think it is going to happen, but it is possible that the Dolphins can make the playoffs, and we'll talk about if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Miami long term. But let me ask you guys this. Do you guys want the Dolphins to make the playoffs? I guess that's the only fair way to ask. Like, this is not me asking if you think they will or what the chances are. Just if you, as a fan of the Dolphins, do you want them to make it? Because some people don't and want change in the front office, and they know that may only be accomplished by if the Dolphins make the playoffs. But I know a lot of fans out there that will always root for the Dolphins to make the playoffs. I'm kind of in that category most of the time. I will always root for my team to get into the postseason because anything can happen if you make it to the playoffs. Now, am I going to put it out there that the Dolphins will win the Super Bowl and make a run in the postseason? No, probably not. But, hey, if you're there, it's one-game elimination. Just survive in advance. Anything, any given Sunday, folks. So who knows? We got Ryan saying yes. Vincent, yes. Matt, Miami. Dolphins saying yes. G Venmo says if they make it in, we are first-round exits. Why do we care? It's a point. Steve says yes. Seven says no. Davon says yes. Vincent says fire Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. Ty Man says yes. Dolphins fans forever says yes. Ashley says yes. Lamar says yes. And Jack Sultan also says yes. 130 people watching. We're going to continue our pre-build-up here show process. But we are sponsored by Game Time, the best ticketing app out there. And if you want to be the winner of this holiday season, well, I got to tell you, to purchase tickets on Game Time because it is the best holiday gift. I got tickets for me and my parents for Mavericks, Timberwolves, Christmas basketball in Dallas, so I'm excited about that. and they make it so easy to purchase your tickets. All-in pricing shows you the total price of your ticket up front. Rather than getting blindsided by fees at checkout, you get all-in pricing as well. When you toggle that feature, you see the total price of your ticket up front, so you don't get blindsided by fees at checkout. There's just no easier process than buying tickets with Game Time. And when you download Game Time today, use code ChatSports when you create an account to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Shot to Game Time. What time is it? It is game time. I do want the Dolphins to make the playoffs. I do. I do. I just simply will never root against Miami. It's just not in my blood. I can't do it. Now, if it gets to week 18 and the Dolphins are eliminated, maybe I'll root for the Dolphins to lose that game to improve draft capital. But as long as the Dolphins have even a 1% chance of making the playoffs, I will likely be rooting for that outcome to happen. Like I mentioned, I know people want change and want a better future, but to me, it makes no sense to call yourself a fan of a team. Whether it's football, whether it's basketball, baseball, hockey, it doesn't matter. If you call yourself a fan, to me, if there is a chance to make the postseason and playoffs, you should absolutely be rooting for that chance. So I'm typing my Y's. So is Axie. So is Joshua. Tyman saying yes as well. Now, here's a different conversation to be had, which I'll be curious to see what you guys have to say. Should the Dolphins fire Mike McDaniel? We talked about it on our post-game show of Sunday's Dolphins-Texans. We talked about it yesterday on our Overreaction Monday news rumors video, if you will, about potentially moving on from Mike McDaniel. I am also going to lean in the category of yes on this. So I do want the Dolphins to make the playoffs, but I also think the Dolphins should fire Mike McDaniel because I don't think he is an adequate coach that will bring a Super Bowl to Miami, and that is the ultimate goal, right? If you are a serious organization, you want to win the Super Bowl, not just stay afloat and barely miss or make the playoffs. So that reason, I'm moving on from Mike and trying to find a better head coach. So I'm typing my Y's. Matt Y, Raul Y, Joshua Y, Tyman Y, Matt yes, Davon yes, Michael says no, Axie says yes, Vincent says yes. I will say this. I know a lot of people are going to bring this up, and I'll talk about it here as well. If the Dolphins do fire Mike McDaniel, they should also fire Chris Grier, right? This is not a one-and-done situation. If the Dolphins are firing Mike McDaniel, they should be firing Chris Grier. And if I got to be honest, if they're firing Chris Grier, they should be firing Mike McDaniel. Like, I don't know if the new GM that the Dolphins would potentially hire if they did move on from Chris Grier would want to keep Mike McDaniel. They might want to get their own head coach and kind of restart things there. And that's kind of how I feel in the situation, man. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, it just seems that it may be just time to potentially, move in a different direction if you're Miami. And again, will they move on from McDaniel? I'm in the camp that they'll probably not, but I think we've kind of seen Roley over the last, half part of the season, really ever since Tua went down. McDaniel's, kind of offensive play calling and his kind of philosophy and the way he kind of builds his team, it's really kind of shown throughout the season and throughout his kind of coaching tenure through, what is it now, almost 3 years. So it's, they're a finesse team. They are a team that cannot run the ball consistently. They don't have a physical presence up front. And to be honest, the really physical part of their defense is not really contributing to McDaniel. You could argue it's through Anthony Weaver. So I just think that this team probably needs a new direction. Will they do it? Probably not, in my opinion. But, yeah, I just think Mike McDaniel is more of an OC than he is a head coach at this point.
Yeah, he might be. And even if he is, I got to be honest, I'm a little lukewarm on his offense as well. Like, I don't know. Like, I think there's too much going on, and I'm not sure that he would even be that good of an offensive coordinator at this point if he's running the same offense. I got to be honest. If he's running the same offense, I don't know. Nancy says, hey, Nick, love your input. Thanks from Brockport, New York. That's awesome. Brockport, New York, in Rochester, New York, which is where I'm from. Nancy, I don't know if you knew that, but I am from Hilton, New York. That is my hometown. I now live in Dallas, Texas. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if you didn't. But either way, I thought I would share that. My guy Barry B's in the chat says that we would have fired Dan Campbell the first bad season he had. Lol. Barry B, the all-time optimist, is not happy with the fire Mike McDaniel talks. I understand it. But Barry, I think there are apples to oranges here, man. Like, I just think it's the eye test. And Barry, does it not concern you that Mike McDaniel's 3-15 against winning football teams? Like, he can't beat good coaches. He can't beat good football teams. He can't win on the road. He can't win in cold environments. Like, maybe some of that's on roster construction, but like, to me, it's a lot of Mike McDaniel issues. And I am not going to settle for good but not great. I want to be great. I want to be competing for Super Bowls. I don't see Mike McDaniel turning it around. We've seen 3 seasons of the same issues. 3 seasons. Here's the thing. If they won a playoff game last year, if they won a playoff game in his first season as head coach, different story. But we've seen it. I think it's 2 years, basically 3 full seasons of sample size that they can't win meaningful games in December, can't win meaningful games on the road, they can't win meaningful games, period. And that's kind of where I'm out on McDaniel. That's kind of where I'm out. That's why. I want to win a Super Bowl. I don't want to just make the playoffs and be first-round exits. If you want to make the playoffs and have a winning record but never win anything meaningful, I think Mike McDaniel might be your guy. But if you want to take that next step and potentially be playing in February, I think that's where you might have to just reset, take the shot on a different head coach. That's kind of how I feel, man.
Yeah, just like a cap ceiling. Again, McDaniel could get you to a certain point, but I don't know. Maybe he needs another starter elsewhere. Maybe he needs to be an offensive coordinator again, learn some things, learn from his mistakes, but I don't know. How much further can this Miami Dolphins team go under Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, not very far. All right, I do want to throw out this deal for everyone today. Not really going to ask for crazy. I'll just say this. If we reach $50 in Super Chats today, I'll do a beer bong. I'm not one $50 Super Chat. If we just get there as a total collective unit, $50 in Super Chats, I'll do a beer bong on today's show. And if you are ready for the show to start, hit that thumbs up icon. We have 140 people watching. Only 36 likes. Can we get to 70 likes? I think that should be very easy. I think we should be able to get there. If you can't donate to the stream, we appreciate you anyway for just coming in and watching. And the best way to help us grow and really take this channel to the next step is hitting that like button, subscribing, commenting. But right now, we're trying to get to 70 likes so we can start today's show. We're at 39, so we're, what is that, 31 away? 31 away. That should be very meaningful and very easy to do. 45 likes, so now 35 away. Or 25 likes away, excuse me. Hit that thumbs up icon. And we do have some important stuff to talk about today because Dolphins did get great news over the last 24, 48 hours that we need to discuss. Tyreek Hill, could he be traded in the offseason? And then also, Mike McDaniel replacements. If the Dolphins end up firing Mike at the end of the season and they look for a new head coach, what are the top candidates? Who are the top guys that I would be looking for to be the next Dolphins head coach? We got 5 names with a bonus name that we'll talk about, but we're not getting into any of that until we get to 70 likes. We're 18 away. Hit that thumbs up icon. Like the stream right now.
Go ahead.
Come on, 18 away, 17 away. Hit that thumbs up icon so we can get 50 likes. Or 70 likes, excuse me, and start today's live show.
Should be the very first thing you do. Walk in the stream, just hit the like buttons. Like taking your shoes off when you enter somebody else's house.
Yeah, I'm retiring that analogy personally.
Yeah.
Too many people have hopped on it, Colin.
You really think so?
Yes. Retiring the analogy.
Who has hopped on
I've heard it 2 or 3 different shows. I'm out. I'm a trendsetter, but as soon as too many people hop on the trend, I'm out.
Okay.
I'm no longer doing it. No longer using that analogy. No
Fair
longer
enough.
using the shoes analogy. Just hit that thumbs up. We're 69 likes. Very nice number. But who's going to be that 70th like to start today's show? Just need one person. Who's going to be the guy or girl to get us across? Well, we did get across. We're at 72 likes, so which means we're going to get into our first segment, which is that the Dolphins got the best news possible after the loss. Not many things could have been good news for the Miami Dolphins, but we did get good news. But before we get into that news, I think we have to showcase this $20 super chat from Mac Hudson. Shout out to Mac. This is a special super chat from Mac Hudson. Why? Because it's his first ever super chat. Shout out to Mac. There is nothing that makes me more happy than a first-time super chatter because it makes me feel happy about myself, and it's just kind of nice that we share this moment with Mac, that he would feel so inclined to make a donation for the first time and it be to our channel. I love first-time super chatters. I appreciate the $20, Mac. That means we're $30 away from doing a beer bong on our Tuesday live show. And as always, we're going to talk about Jaylen Waddle in this upcoming segment, but first-time super chatters, we do the Waddle dance. Waddle, waddle. Waddle, waddle. Waddle, waddle. Waddle, waddle. Let's go, baby. Shout out to Mac Hudson. And that's going to take us right into our segment that features a lot of discussion on Jaylen Waddle. The Miami Dolphins may have lost on Sunday to the Houston Texans, but they did receive the best news possible after the loss to the Houston Texans. And you might be wondering how that's even possible, as Miami fell to 6-8 on the season and the playoff percent chances lowered quite a bit. Well, it's mostly on the injury front because head coach Mike McDaniel said that Jaylen Waddle, the star young wide receiver, his knee issue that forced him to leave the game against Houston in the first half, he did not return. He was blocking. He got rolled up on from behind. Players came crashing into his knee. He does not need to have surgery, and the injury is not serious whatsoever, and he's actually labeled as day-to-day. We'll talk more about Waddle and the injury, but I do want you to follow us over on Instagram. We are 36 followers away from reaching 600. Our handle is Dolphins Today IG. We're posting content over there daily, and if you want 365-day, 24/7 coverage of the Dolphins, you got to be subscribed, but you also got to follow us on Instagram because you'll be covered in between our YouTube shows and live streams, so go give us a follow right now. Let's get back to Jaylen Waddle because considering how bad it looked, and if you were with us on our watch party Sunday against Houston, you would have seen my reaction. You would have seen how concerned I was about Jaylen Waddle because I am just through the roof that there is no damage, there is no surgery, there is nothing serious about this Waddle knee issue long term. Because when you see a wide receiver get his knee rolled up on and it bends inwards and he kind of falls weirdly backwards, you get concerned about an ACL, an MCL, a PCL, and you're like, well, shit, this doesn't just suck for the rest of the season, but this could have an impact on his rehab and ability to be ready to go in the 25 season to start the year fast. And luckily, that will not be the case because, like I mentioned a second ago, Mike McDaniel said he is day-to-day. But on Waddle this season, it has been a disappointing year. Like, let's be clear here. With 3 games left that he may miss this week, he may not. He only has 700 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's been the worst season of Jaylen Waddle's career. Now, maybe that can be attributed to Tua Tagovailoa being out for 4 games. Maybe it can be attributed to the different style of offense Miami's playing this year, relying on the quick passing game a lot more instead of the explosive plays, featuring Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane in the passing game a ton. But he is the future of this receiver room. Even though it's a down year, they gave him a 3-year extension this offseason before they had to. Waddle is in his 4th year. He's on the 5th-year option already next season. So that extension that he signed before the year began isn't only going to kick in until after next year. So it's not like they had to extend him before the season. They could have done it in this offseason or waited till after the 5th-year option. They believe in him. They know he has wide receiver 1 capabilities for the Miami Dolphins. And when Tyreek Hill is 30 years old, going to be 31 before next season, you have to seriously consider if he might be moved off of, and you lean on Waddle to be your number 1 guy going forward and build a more complementary wide receiver room around him instead of using just the speed of Hill and Waddle consistently. Like, he is the future of this room, and I'm excited to see him grow, and I'm very glad he is going to be okay long term and does not have a serious knee issue after that scary little roll-up this past Sunday. If you're with me, if you're happy Jaylen Waddle is all right long term, spam his jersey number 17 down in the comments section. Show me that you were fired up for Jaylen Waddle, that he is all right. Now, I am a little sad, though, before we move on from Waddle, that his 1,000-yard streak is likely over. Like I mentioned, it's the 4th year in his career, and he's reached 1,000 yards the first 3 seasons. He obviously set a record for receptions in his rookie season, but had 1,014 yards in that rookie year. Then had a really good sophomore campaign, 1,100-plus yards. And then last year had 1,015 yards, but unless he plays the final 3 games and has 100 yards plus in each of those games, or goes nuclear and is able to reach 1,000 yards and 300 yards in the final 3 games, it doesn't look like that streak will continue, which is a bummer for him personally, because I did think he was going to have like a Mike Evans type season and career to where he was just going to have 1,000 yards every single season, because Mike Evans has done the same thing. All right, let's move over to the next piece of good news, and that's wide receiver Grant DuBose is in a stable condition after that scary head injury he suffered on Sunday against the Texans. If you don't remember and are just now hearing this for the first time, coming across the middle of the field in the 3rd quarter, gets hit shoulder to head, falls back and lands on his head as well as Tua threw a hospital ball over the middle, and it's called a hospital ball for the reason. It's because Grant DuBose had to go to the hospital. He was taken off of the field on a stretcher, unconscious, and he is okay. Here is the statement from the Dolphins organization saying that after sustaining a head injury in yesterday's game, Grant DuBose remained at a local Houston hospital for evaluation overnight. He has movement in all extremities, and initial tests have revealed positive results. He remains under the care of doctors for continued observation. And this is just great to see, man, because there was legit concern from me that he was going to be injured long term. And whenever you mention anything head-related, neck-related, it gets scary because you never know how those things are going to go. So it's awesome to hear that Grant DuBose is fine. He also got placed on IR today, so his season is over. That was anticipated regardless. But DuBose, someone who was claimed by the Dolphins after waiver day from the Green Bay Packers, got hurt in week 2 against the Bills, returned from IR to play in this game last Sunday, and then gets that crazy injury. It was tough to see, and the wide receiver room in Miami gets thinner, but the only thing that matters is that Grant DuBose is going to be healthy and good long term, because that was the main concern. More news to get to in just a second, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the best ticketing app out there, and they are the best because they have so many great features that make purchasing your tickets easy and accessible. One of them being Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Another pair of features that I love, all-in pricing and the panoramic views. You get a full view of your seat in the app before you buy, whether it's a comedy show, concert, sporting event, you'll know exactly where you're sitting. And then that all-in pricing feature. It shows you the total price of your ticket up front so you don't get blindsided by fees at checkout. Nothing worse than thinking you're buying a ticket for $50, $60, and next thing you know, you're going to check out and they're ringing you up for $110. That's an absolute disaster, not with Game Time. Give the best gift this holiday season. I got tickets for me and my family for Timberwolves Mavericks on Christmas Day. You will be the winner of the best gift given when you purchase your tickets for someone, whether it's family member, friend, coworker, doesn't matter. But make sure you use Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code ChatSports when signing up to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but use code CHAT. SPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It is game time. Next piece of news we have to discuss. Bradley Chubb, is he returning this week for the Miami Dolphins? He got returned to practice, and his 21-day practice window was open before the game against the New York Jets 2 weeks ago. Well, he didn't play in that game, just activated 2 or 3 days prior. That was expected. And people wondered if he was going to make his debut on Sunday against the Texans. Well, that was not the case, and he still remains sidelined and not played this season after recovering from the torn ACL and PCL and MCL that he suffered last year in Week 17-16 against the Baltimore Ravens. And it is no sure thing that he actually does return this week against the San Francisco 49ers. Complete blank for a second there. Mike McDaniel in his press conference on Monday actually said that his status won't be decided on until the end of the week. And I do think it's important to mention his timeline because he has to be activated at late as Christmas, December 25. We mentioned that 21-day practice window. If you get returned in that window and you do not get activated off of PUP/IR to the active roster, you are unable to come back this season. So if Bradley Chubb is not activated to the 53-man on Christmas Day or sooner, he is not going to return this season against the 49ers, Jets, or Cleveland Browns, the last 3 opponents of the Miami Dolphins. So that is an important update there. I hope he does return. I know a lot of fans out there are concerned about bringing him back because if he is hurt and gets hurt again, his career might be done. You don't want to re-aggravate that knee injury. But I also think it's important for him to get live reps going into the offseason and maybe even bump up his trade value by showcasing he still has that burst in athleticism. And it's good for Miami to know if he's still got that juice as well going into the offseason so they know if they have to address that position or move off of him as well. I think it's important for him to get back out on the football field, and I'm going to hope that he is back playing this Sunday against the 49ers or at worst the last 2 games against Browns and Jets. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're almost at 66,000. And guess what, folks? If Bradley Chubb does get activated to the 53-man roster, we will let you know about that roster move. So subscribe today, and let's get to 66,000 sooner rather than later. We mentioned that game against the Cleveland Browns in Week 17. It was originally scheduled as a Sunday night football game. That is no longer the case. Announced on Tuesday afternoon that the NFL has flexed Dolphins-Browns out of Sunday night football and replaced it with the Washington Commanders hosting the Atlanta Falcons. And if you were wondering what time that game is now, it still will be Sunday. It is now 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time against the Browns, so they move up 4 hours from 8:25 to 4:05. So they play the 49ers at 4:25 this Sunday, 4:05 against the Browns in Week 17, and then that final game against the Jets in Week 18 is unsure of time, but it will likely be played on Sunday. That is for sure. All right, we'll round out today's video with the Dolphins. Are they still in the playoff hunt? Are they still having a chance to make the postseason? Because this is where things stand after NFL Week 15. They remain 2 games back of a playoff spot. The 4 division leaders have all clinched a spot, but the wild card remains up for grabs with the Ravens and Broncos both 9-5, Chargers 8-6 after losing at home against the Buccaneers, and then the Bengals, Dolphins, and Colts all sitting there at 6-8. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because Pro Football Network actually gave them a 22.4% chance to make the postseason, which I got to be honest, is a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 6%, 5% to make the postseason, but Pro Football Network saying 22.4%, which I thought was interesting. And if you are someone who wants the Dolphins to make the playoffs and are curious to see how that can happen, this game will tell you everything you need to know. Thursday night football. The Broncos and Chargers face off. If you're someone who wants to make the playoffs, you must be glued into this game. Because if the Dolphins do want to make the postseason, the Dolphins, one, have to win out. And I said that they needed to win out before the loss against the Texans. Well, it actually has to be now. Because any loss for Miami pretty much eliminates them from the postseason, like actually mathematically, not just in the figure of speech. You need the Colts to lose a game. They're 6-8. They can't finish 9-8 because they have the tiebreaker over you. And you need either the Broncos to lose out or the Ravens, but the Ravens aren't going to lose out, or the Chargers to go 1-2. And that's why I find the game against the Broncos and Chargers this Thursday so fascinating. Like, you could have the Broncos lose out or the Chargers go 1-2. So it's in your favor to root for the Denver Broncos on Thursday, because if Denver beats the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, the Dolphins would just need to win out and have the Chargers go 1-1 in the final 2 games. Now, granted, they are against the New England Patriots and Las Vegas Raiders, 2 of the 3 worst teams in football, but you would only need them to lose 1 of the games if the Broncos win on Thursday. If the Chargers win on Thursday, well, then you would need the Chargers to lose out and the Broncos to lose out, and that feels very unlikely. So if you want the Dolphins to make the playoffs, to me, it's very simple. Win your final 3 games, Colts lose 1 of their last 3, and the Broncos to win on Thursday, and then the Patriots or the Raiders to upset the Chargers in Week 17 or Week 18. What say you? Do you even want the Dolphins to make the playoffs? Type Y if you do. Type N if you do not. I actually understand both sides of the equation here on wanting them to make or miss the postseason, but let me know your thoughts down below. I have always said that if you are a true fan of a sports team, doesn't matter if it's the Dolphins, doesn't matter if it's a different NFL team, a baseball team, basketball, does not matter. If you are a fan, you should always root for the playoffs. This might be the one exception for me because I want Chris Grier to be fired. I want Mike McDaniel to be fired because I think if for the Dolphins to get to the Super Bowl level that they are aspiring to do, the quickest way to get there is to fire Mike McDaniel, fire Chris Grier, bring in a different mindset, bring in a different culture to try to rebuild this organization and locker room. And the only way that happens is if the Dolphins go 1-2, 2-1 down the stretch, miss the postseason, and Stephen Ross gets fed up. Do I think that's going to happen? Do I think they're going to get fired? I don't know. I would probably lean no, even though I want them to. But if they miss the playoffs, the chances at least go a little bit higher that those 2 things happen. And if anything catastrophic or seismic does happen in the offseason, we will be here to break it down. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Still dropping daily content on the Miami Dolphins, so make sure you are subscribed. All right, 1 segment down, 1 segment in the books. Woo!
Still pretty crazy that that number was that high.
Yeah, I'm shocked at 22.4%. 22.4% to make the postseason is high.
Very.
It means they're predicting that the Dolphins win out for sure. They're predicting that. And even if they win out and go 3-0, I still think the percentage for them to make the playoffs is under 50%. I haven't looked at it, but I would guess it is. Like, I would give it less than a 50% chance that the Chargers go 1-2 or the Broncos lose out. Like, I don't think it's high. You also need the Colts to lose a game. Mm-hmm. You have the tiebreaker over Cincy, so you don't really worry about them. But you need the Colts to lose 1 of their final 3 games. They play the Jaguars, Titans, and Giants. So, I mean, it's very possible the Colts win out and go 9-8. And I don't imagine the Broncos lose all 3 games they play. They do play the Chargers, Chiefs, and Bengals. So maybe. I'll say this, Cullen. If the Chargers beat the Broncos on Thursday Night Football, and you had to give me a prediction of which team is more likely to go 0-2, it would be the Broncos over the Chargers to make the playoffs because, like I said, it is the Bengals who are still technically able to make the postseason, and then they would play the Chiefs. So, I mean, there's a way here, Cullen, that the Broncos do lose out if the Chargers win because the Bengals, if they win this Sunday, will have meaningful football in Week 17. And then if they win, as long as the Chiefs have not wrapped up the number 1 overall seed, they'll be playing for something in Week 18, which means it is possible Denver goes 0-3.
Which is very true.
It's just very low percentage, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot of ifs.
Current spread is Chargers -3. Obviously, they're at home, so they're basically...
So it's basically a
pick 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah, so could go either way. Divisional matchup. Broncos really have been on a roll. I mean, they won an ugly game. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights from Broncos-Colts.
Oh, I saw it.
I
saw it all.
Not a great game.
I saw it all.
So, who knows? Maybe they come back down to earth. Maybe they continue to roll. I'm interested to see how it goes. Yeah, very interested. Obviously, all Dolphins fans, if you can, I would highly encourage you all to tune in to this Thursday night's game.
Yep. How about this? It's about time, but
The Michael Penix.
yeah, the Michael Penix has just completely spaced. Raheem
Yeah,
Morris leaving the door open for Kirk Cousins to potentially be benched.
Yep. Declined to name a starter.
Declined to make a starter. Maybe Michael Penix is finally getting his opportunity.
Yeah. Raheem Morris noted that they returned late last night from Vegas and are still in the evaluation process.
I would love to see him go out there, man.
I think Kirk's done.
Kirk, he's so bad, man.
I think he's done. Like, I don't know if he'll ever be a good quarterback again. Like, I think the Achilles might be his kind of downfall, which I don't wish that upon anybody, but he has not looked like the same player that we saw from the days in Minnesota.
Yeah, he looks stinks.
I mean, he's
Anthony, no. The Mike McDaniel replacement segments is actually the last segment that we're doing today. We just did news and injury news. Next, we're going to do rumors on a Tyreek Hill trade, plus a free agent target Miami must go after. And then we'll wrap up the show with Mike McDaniel replacements if he gets fired. So we'll tap up this rumors segment coming up in just a second. Get my Mellow can set up here, as we are going to be sponsored by Mellow on this next show. But remember, folks, we have $20 in Super Chats. If we get to 50 in total today, I'll do a beer bong. Any donation to the channel would be greatly appreciated. Helps us grow. We are currently going under construction at Chat Sports. We just hired 6 new employees, so we're growing, we're expanding, we're taking the next step as a media company, and it's all because of your guys' support, donating the channel, liking, subscribing, commenting. So whenever you guys think that what you do does not matter, let me just tell you, you could not be more wrong, and those donations do not go to us. It goes right to the company to help us grow and get more content out on the channel, but also at the company that is Chat Sports. All right, let's get into our second segment on this show. Anthony saying, Rolly, I'm surprised since you're doing this live show with McDaniel replacements, why don't you do the same show replacements for Greer? One, because I think more people would watch the Mike McDaniel replacement segment. That's number one. Number two, it's also difficult to project front office guys. Right now, I think there's a lot of head coaching buzz out there and candidates, and so I just think it would be easier to talk about at this point. And that's why we're doing it. But don't you worry. We will have a Chris Greer replacements video within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Assuming the Dolphins miss the playoffs. And if they do actually fire Chris Greer, we will obviously have that covered to an absolute T. But with that being said, let's get into this rumor segment. Welcome to Miami Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we have 2 main topics. Could a Tyreek Hill trade be looming in the offseason? Plus, should the Dolphins target Trey Smith as a top priority in NFL free agency during the 2025 NFL offseason? But before that, I need your guys' help. I need you guys to subscribe to the channel. We're putting out daily content here at Dolphins Today. We're on the road to 66,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button for daily Dolphins updates, news, and rumors. There's no better channel on YouTube that will have you covered on your needs surrounding the Miami Dolphins. All right, let's get into Tyreek Hill, because many people are curious if Tyreek Hill could be a trade candidate for the Dolphins this offseason. It was not suggested by anyone out there. There is no actual rumors, but it's something that I wanted to talk about, because as we think about the future of this organization, there are many holes on this roster: offensive line, safeties, linebackers, interior defensive line. To be clear, I don't know if all of those issues can be addressed if you are paying Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle a combined $60 million on your cap room a year. I love the two. They're both elite, but allotting $60 million of your cap space to 2 wide receivers just might not be sustainable for winning football. So, since Waddle's younger and just signed his extension, if one were to go, it would probably be Tyreek Hill. But the financials make it a little bit difficult. Barry Jackson actually had a note on a Tyreek Hill trade earlier this season before the deadline, saying there's a $27.7 million cap hit in 2025 if Tyreek Hill's on the team. But there's an even bigger cap hit for Miami, $28.3 million, if he's traded after the season but before June 1st. It's $12.7 million in cap hit for the Dolphins if he's traded after June 1st. But what's more, his $27.7 million salary for 2025 is fully guaranteed. So what does that tell you? To me, it's likely that he is going to be staying in Miami to at least begin the 2025 season. Because you saw the numbers. The Dolphins don't save any money if they trade Tyreek Hill before June 1st. So what would be the point of doing that other than acquiring a draft pick to use in the 25 draft in April? But I don't see whoever the front office is doing that. If you are trading Tyreek Hill, you are doing it to get draft capital, but also free up some money. Well, the only time you're doing that is if you do a post-June 1st trade. But you obviously aren't going to be able to use any of that cap space that you just freed up to sign free agents because, well, free agents sign in March. And Tyreek Hill is still having a good season, even though it's a down year for his standards. He's on pace to reach 1,000 yards for another season. He just needs 195 in the next 3 games. It's only 67 catches and 5 touchdowns. It's been a little bit of a disappointing year, but you also have to take into consideration that Tua Tagovailoa missed 4 games and had to deal with Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley. Plus, the explosiveness just hasn't been there. Over the past 2 seasons, he's averaging 14, 15 yards per catch. This year, it's only 12. It's still a down year for Tyreek, but he's still playing at a wide receiver 1 level. But is he playing at a level that is warranted his $30 million plus cap hit in what is next year, or 2 years from now, going to be $51 million? Now, it's not going to happen to where he plays $51 million. That would be changed and restructured. But either way, it's a high cap hit. But let me ask you this first. Chime in. It's today's pinned comments. You get hit with a YouTube ad break. Scroll down, let it play, and answer today's question. Would you think about trading Tyreek Hill in the offseason? Just think about it. Not doing it, just ponder the idea. Be open to it. Type Y for yes or type N for no. Well, I'm making the video, so you'd have to assume I'm at least open to it on a degree. And I honestly would think about it. And it's not just the cap space. It's not just the down season is having this year statistically, but there's other factors that come into play here. And when you look at advanced metrics, Tyreek Hill may be losing a step. He's 30 years old. He'll be 31 by the time of next season. He's getting to that age where he might be losing his top-end speed. Now, is he still one of the top 5 fastest wide receivers in football? Absolutely. But is he the clear-cut number 1 anymore? I'm not sure, and it's reflected in his statistics in terms of separation. In 2023, there was no better wide receiver in terms of creating separation, in my opinion, against man coverage. You see it. He was 17th in a complete target separation. He was 3rd in total route wins, 1st in route win rate, and then 15th in win rate on routes versus man coverage. Well, those numbers have taken a slight regression in 2024. And these numbers, I wanted to use them and look deeper into them because this is separate of quarterback play. This is how he does against man coverage. His target separation numbers have gone down, but it actually still ranks about the same in terms of NFL wide receivers. His total route wins through 15 weeks is 21st in football, so quite a drop back. The route win rate is the biggest jump down, 20% lower, and is now 26th in football after being 1st last season. And then his win rate versus man coverage has went down 7% and 7 spots in the National Football League. So his numbers are going down slightly if you look at it from an advanced perspective. And maybe we should mellow out and take a chill pill and just relax. Shout out to Mellow Seltzer. If you have any questions on Mellow, hit me up on social media at Nic_Rohloff on Twitter. One of my new favorite drinks, and I've been drinking it for a while now. But either way, let's get back to the video here because Tua Tagovailoa did miss 4 games. And I understand that the statistics where he doesn't have 1,000 yards yet, he just has over 800, is down because of those 4 missed games. But when you look at those advanced numbers of his route win rate percentage, his numbers against man coverage, his separations, that's concerning. And I think you saw it a little bit against the Texans on Sunday. Yes, he was going up against one of the top 5, top 7 corners in football, an absolute young stud in Derek Stingley Jr. But there was a couple gotta-have-it plays where they just said, you know what, F it. We're going to go man coverage against Tyreek Hill. And Stingley locked him up. And you saw it on the final play of the game offensively for Miami. Was the ball slightly underthrown to Tua on that fade route or to Tyreek from Tua that ended in an interception? Yeah, it was underthrown. But Tyreek Hill also high-pointed it, caught the football, and on the way down to the ground, Stingley took it out of his hands for an interception, which ended the ball game. Would the Dolphins have won if Tyreek makes that catch? I'm not sure. Still would have been a long shot. But the point remains is that he's not winning against man coverage as often as he once was. And you saw it also on that out route where Tua threw the pick in the red zone. Was it a bad ball and Tua threw it on the inside shoulder rather than the outside shoulder? Yes, that's got to be on the outside. But there still wasn't separation there. Stingley was on him like white on rice. I'm concerned a little bit about Tyreek Hill's inability to separate as often as he once did. But there is an issue with trading Tyreek Hill. Because if you are trading Tyreek Hill, the point of doing that is to get draft picks and cap space for the offseason. But like I mentioned a little bit earlier when we looked at the numbers for 2025, the Dolphins would not be getting cap relief or draft capital to make a selection this offseason and sign free agents in this offseason class. And this free agency class is not very good, so maybe that's a thing that Chris Greer would be okay with, or whoever's calling the shots, and they would be fine recouping assets after June 1st and saving the $18, $19 million against the cap by moving him after June 1st. But to me, if a Tyreek Hill trade happened at all, it would likely be during the season next year if the Dolphins are 500 or struggling once again, and they move him before the NFL trade deadline. And when you think about what Miami may need going forward, they need a physical wide receiver. Like, I'm sick and tired of the small wide receiver types. And it's been a dominant force when you combine the Waddle and Tyreek Hill duo of speed. But if we're going to be honest, we only need one really speed type of guy. The ideal wide receiver room, in my opinion, is someone on the outside that can play inside as well and utilize their speed. That can be Jaylen Waddle. A physical wide receiver, a physical X that can just win contested catch rates at a higher percentage and just be a guy that you can trust over the middle of the field and in fade routes and in the red zone that you can go to on a consistent basis. And then that third wide receiver that can dominate in the slot consistently. Waddle can be a slot and an outside guy, but I don't think he could be an X. Like, I would like to see the Dolphins acquire a physical, big-bodied wide receiver to be that X on the outside. And to me, if you traded Tyreek Hill, added someone like that with Waddle, and maybe you see what you have in Malik Washington, the slot wide receiver out of Virginia, the 6th-round rookie, well, maybe that's the formidable and more balanced wide receiver room that the Dolphins could benefit more from. It's just a food for thought here. And before we finish the conversation on Tyreek Hill, I did want to showcase this because if they traded Tyreek Hill, this is kind of where I think the package would be. Because Devontae Adams is in that same age range, about 32, 33, playing at the same type of a level as Tyreek Hill. So this is what a trade package would look like for Tyreek, in my opinion. Maybe it's higher. The Raiders received a conditional 3rd-round pick that can become a 2nd-round pick. But based off what has happened and what the conditions were, it looks like it will be a 3rd-round pick. I think Miami can expect something similar. Now, I do think it could be a conditional 2nd-round pick that becomes a 1st-round pick if he's traded in the offseason or at the middle of the season next year. I don't know if he can flat-out go net you a 1st-round pick anymore with his contract and his age, but a conditional 2nd that could become a 1st, yeah, maybe that is something that the Dolphins could receive back. All right, to close out today's show, how about this? Can the Dolphins go out and sign Trey Smith, one of the top free agents in free agency this upcoming offseason? And he is not just one of the top free agents out there. according to other people, but he is the number one free agent in my opinion. He is my number one target for the Miami Dolphins in NFL free agency if they went big name hunting, because he is an offensive guard that has been fantastic over his 4-year career for the Kansas City Chiefs. And what is the biggest need on the Miami Dolphins roster? Pretty clear. It's offensive guard. It really doesn't matter if it's left guard or right guard, if we're going to be honest. They just need to replace one of the guards, because Liam Eichenberg is the 59th graded guard in football, and Robert Jones is 52. They both are horrible. They both ruin games for Miami. It's the reason why the Dolphins' run game is as bad as it is. It's 5th worst in football. They've been averaging 58.1 yards on the ground over the last 6 games, last in football in that stretch. It's because they can't run up the middle of the field. And you have decent pieces on your offensive line. You do. Like, you have Austin Jackson locked in for the next 2 seasons. You have Teron Armstead, or if he retires, you have Patrick Paul, who you drafted in this past draft in the 2nd round, to be that left tackle. And Aaron Brewer, who's in the 1st year of his 3-year contract with Miami, has actually been one of the best centers in all football. So you have a left tackle of the future, or Teron Armstead next year. You have your center, and you have your right tackle returning in Austin Jackson. So all you need to do is figure out how to strengthen the interior at left guard and right guard. In Liam Eichenberg and both Robert Jones, they are free agents to be. They cannot return to this football team. I promise you one thing. If the Dolphins re-sign Robert Jones or Liam Eichenberg, we will make a video on it. But I'm telling you this, that video will be filled with a lot of disgusting comments, because those two have been atrocious. We just mentioned their PFF ranks. We mentioned their PFF grades. They've been abysmal this season. And you can blame a lot of the running issues, maybe on Mike McDaniel's scheme. You can blame it on Devon Achane being a smaller back and he can't run inside the tackles and gets gobbled up by the bigger defensive linemen. But I would be more likely to blame it on the fact that Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones simply can't block. And boy, oh boy, would Trey Smith be a massive, massive upgrade over these two on the interior. Smith has been one of the best offensive guards in football ever since he entered the NFL. He has elite PFF ranks. He has elite PFF grades. This is his 4th season in the National Football League. He has been graded out in the 70s all 4 seasons of his career. He is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker, which honestly isn't an issue for me, because you see the grades there. He's still in the high 60s of pass blocking, but he's elite at the run blocking. And then you see the numbers on the right side of your screen. He ranks in the top 15 out of guards every single year. We just mentioned Liam Eichenberg is 59. Robert Jones is 52. Well, Trey Smith is 11, 11, 13, and 15. Like, he has been great. And he would have been a top pick in the draft in 2021, but there is a cause for concern health-wise, because he was diagnosed with blood clots in his lungs and has not prohibited him from playing, because he has played over 1,000 snaps every year of his career. Did it in 21, did it in 22, did it in 23, and as long as he doesn't get hurt before playing another 24 snaps this season, he will play another 1,000 snaps in 2024. So the blood clots in his lungs have not held him back to this point. It is a little bit of a cause for concern if you're giving him a big contract long term. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the need of the Miami Dolphins, it's hard not to try to argue that he needs to be someone the Dolphins target in NFL free agency. Are you with me? Would you sign Trey Smith to this roster? Type S for sign or type P for pass. Let me know if you want Trey Smith to be someone that the Dolphins target in April and March. Now, with talking about free agency for really the first time, it is important to mention what the Dolphins have at their disposal. Miami currently is projected to have about $4 million in cap space. But I expect them to have anywhere between $20 million and $40 million when we actually get to free agency in March. How is that possible? Well, maybe Teron Armstead retires. Maybe they restructure his contract if he comes back for another year. Maybe they restructure Tua Tagovailoa's contract, Tyreek Hill's contract, Bradley Chubb's contract, Jalen Ramsey's contract, in order to create more cap space for this season and kind of push the cap issues for the Dolphins a couple seasons down the line, which would free maybe a lot of cap space up and potentially get them the $40 million to sign Trey Smith. And if you did have to do that, and you did do that to sign Trey Smith, here is what the projected contract is for Smith right now. 5 years, $101.4 million. And that puts you out to what? $20.4 million in annual average salary, which would just top Robert Hunt's 5-year, $100 million deal he got from the Carolina Panthers as he left Miami to go to Carolina this past free agency. So you would have let Robert Hunt walk for $20 million a year, but then signed a free agent the following season at a little bit of a higher price point. And you may be wondering, well, why would the Dolphins do that? You just saw them let that go last year. Well, I think that after seeing how bad Eichenberg and Robert Jones are, there is a chance that Chris Greer or whoever running this front office is like, yeah, that was a mistake. We should probably allocate some resources to the interior offensive line. And even though it would be expensive, I seriously would consider giving up $20 million on the cap to get Trey Smith into this building. Because if you do that, you could still have $15 million to play with potentially to sign cheaper free agents to improve your linebacker room, interior defensive line, safeties. But the key here is, no matter if you sign Trey Smith or not, if you want to turn this team around and be back in the postseason and build a better overall roster, you need to hit your draft picks. If you are not getting instant impact from your draft picks, you will not be able to build a winning and sustaining culture. Look at the Lions, look at the Bills, look at the Chiefs, look at the Ravens. The top teams in football, the 49ers, they all get instant impact from rookies, whether it's a first-round pick, a third-round pick, or hell, even a fifth-round pick. Go to organizations, find talent that fit their schemes, and draft them and have them play right away. You have not seen that in Miami. Chop Robinson has been sensational this year. That is one case. But the Dolphins need more productive players out of their other draft capital and draft picks they make. That's the only way this turns around. The free agency is nice. You can fill some gaps that way. But it all starts by making the right selections in the draft. So nothing's going to change unless that happens. All right, I'll do it for today's show because we had a long one here. Talked about Tyreek Hill, talked about Trey Smith. But listen, this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to always talk about the rumors. We'll break down the news. We'll break down the action. And we'll be your number one spot for free agency, trade rumors, draft rumors when the offseason is here officially in a month or so. So make sure you are subscribed and lock in for best coverage on YouTube surrounding the Dolphins. Woo!
Any guesses on how long that one was?
1747.
Undersold yourself, brother. 1912.
Are you serious?
I promise you.
That was 19 minutes.
A little over 19 minutes.
The funny thing about that segment, too, Cullen, is when I was scripting it, I was concerned about not having enough.
Yeah.
Why? Because, there's no real sponsor read in that segment. And, I did have a decent amount of graphics, but it's just I don't know. I didn't expect, let me just say this, if you had to put a wager on me, if I had to guess if that was going to be closer to a 15-minute segment or closer to a 12-minute segment, I was going to probably predict 12 minutes. And we did not just shatter 12 minutes. We just shattered 15 minutes and almost got to 20 minutes.
A wise man once told me that if there's one thing that this company never has to worry about, it's Nic Rohloff getting to 8 minutes on a VOD.
That's yeah, that's true. I said that. Yeah. That if there's one person at this company that can get to 8 minutes without any help, it's your guy. Certified yapper. Certified yapper. I can find something to talk about when it makes no sense. Because I don't know how you are, and I know you've really never hosted here, but
maybe one day.
You're when you get into that mode of you're talking, you have our script, we have our talking points, but then as you're talking, you just start thinking of new things that you want to say, and you're like, all right, we'll get into that, and then you got to bring it back to your original point. But certified yapper, man.
Full transparency, and again, I'll defend you on this a little bit. There was a graphic that I was having to edit on the fly during this segment, which I got to talk to Sam about that because the way that graphics built is, So,
but Mr. Cullen Brown didn't check graphs.
I did. I didn't check it thoroughly. I did check, just not correctly. This is true.
Ty Man saying Rolly, it's a 4:25 Week 17 kickoff. Dolphins said 4:05. And I'm going to trust the Dolphins Twitter account when they put out 4:05 p.m. for Browns Dolphins.
Also some NFL news, or NFL, I guess, related news. Michael Vick.
It's official?
Yeah, he's the head coach at Norfolk State.
Gotcha.
So, that happened.
Gotcha.
Bang, bang, bang.
Bang, bang, bang.
Also,
All right.
Also, did you see, last thing, did you see Schroeder's new number for Golden State?
91?
71.
It was a guess. I knew it was going to be something crazy.
Well, yeah, otherwise I would have brought it up. So, yeah, 71.
Wow. 71. Zero aura. Zero aura. What is the least aura number you can wear?
It's an interesting. As an NBA player, 63. I don't know, just a random number.
63. Let's talk about NFL.
NFL? Ooh.
Least aura number.
As a quarterback?
Yeah, let's go quarterback first.
19.
Correct answer. 17 is number 2.
Yeah.
No aura in 17.
I can't even think of
running back.
Honestly, that's tough. I'm gonna say it's not anything in the 20s. Do you have one in the 20s?
Yeah, 41. No aura.
41. Okay, I was gonna say 38 or something like that.
No, I've seen backs of 38. 41. No. 42 works. I've seen running backs 42.
Yeah, 42. I've seen 40.
44 could be aura because you got double fours, but 41, no. Wide receiver. I've got one clear cut. Because they can now wear single digits, but the least aura wide receiver number was originally the first one you could wear. Number 80, to me, has no aura.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not a fan of 80?
80 has no aura.
Interesting. I mean, no one wears 80s anymore. So,
yeah,
you could
most,
really
almost 90% of wide receivers, it feels like, wears 80s. If you were wearing a number in the 80s as a wide receiver, it's like 84
or 88,
and those are the only two.
Yeah,
those two are single digits.
Yep.
Or in the teens.
Yeah,
but to me, 80 has no aura.
82. Yeah.
I think actually, you want to know what position has aura? I think no matter what, tight ends.
Yeah.
Is there legitimately a bad tight end number? Because it's only in the 40s,
80s,
and 80s.
Yeah,
because
they can't be single digits or actually, well, Pitts is 8, right?
Who?
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
But it's so I guess maybe I should rephrase that.
No, I'm saying you could also be something other than 40s. That's all I'm saying.
But I think anything in the 40s for tight ends, I think it works. I think it plays for tight ends.
Yeah, Hot Dog says 87 is the most used tight end number.
Yeah, well, that's because that has the best tight end of all time. In that. Now, who do you think I'm referring to when I say that?
I would assume Gronk.
I think Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end of all time, without a question. Most dominant. He's a better blocking tight end than Travis Kelce. I think Tony Gonzalez is in the conversation.
He should be, but he didn't have the numbers that Gronk even had. To be honest.
So to me, Gronk's the best tight end of all time. You can have a conversation about who's 2 or 3 between Kelce and Gonzalez. Probably put Shannon Sharp 4.
Kelce to me is just a different tight end than Gronk was. Because again, you said it. Gronk's clearly a better blocking tight end.
Yeah, exactly. Tight ends, it's in their job description to be able to block in the run game. Travis Kelce doesn't block.
It's true, but Kelce also was more available than Gronk was. And again, I'm not faulting Gronk for that.
Well, it's because Gronk got targeted by the NFL. Who's that fucking loser in Denver? The safety.
Ward. TJ Ward.
He ended Gronk's season twice. Literally twice. Took his knee out twice. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I remember when Earl Thomas hit him in a spleen.
Yeah, Gronk had back issues, knee issues.
I mean, everything.
Poor guy. Because if he was able to stay healthy, those numbers would have been unbelievable. The fact that he has the numbers he has,
it's true,
with all the time he missed, is I think why it's even more impressive and why it's because I think he's the go.
Yeah, I think if you him, Kelsey, Gonzalez, and then whoever the fourth tight end, like that is your Mount Rushmore, though. Like I think it's clearly those three.
Yeah, the Shannon Sharp is number 4.
Yeah, it's probably
without a question, in my opinion. I think the top 4 tight ends, it might be the easiest position to just say those are the top 4 of all time, and that's it.
Yeah, I respect Antonio Gates. Like he was a dog in his day, but he was no Shannon Sharp. So
I don't think it's really close. It's those 4, and that's it.
Ryan says Ozzie Newsome. Like
I mean, Ozzie Newsome's definitely in the conversation to like be that 5th guy or around there, but I just legitimately don't think it's close between the top 4 and the next after that.
Yeah.
The next tier though, I would put in Ozzie Newsome. I would put in Antonio Gates. Even honestly, Jimmy Graham, like his stretch in the 2010s was unbelievable with the Saints.
Witten maybe just because of longevity.
Witten because of longevity's there as well. Yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, I mean you could definitely go down the line with tight ends. You say Kellen Winslow, like that could be also another one.
But I think the top 4 is like, in my opinion, non-debatable.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, we got one more segment to go. I did want to throw it out there. We said our special for today's show was if we got $50 in super chats total, we would do a beer bong. We have 20. If we get $30 more in super chats, we will do a beer bong. While we see if that comes to fruition or not, we are going to do our last segment on today's live show, which is Mike McDaniel replacements. Yes, the top head coach candidates that the Dolphins could look at if they move on from Mike McDaniel. Let's get into that right now. Spicy segment here at Dolphins Today. I am Nic Rohloff. We are doing the top head coach targets / candidates that the Miami Dolphins could be looking at if they moved on from Mike McDaniel. It is not a guarantee they do that. I would actually say it is more likely that Mike McDaniel is back as Dolphins head coach next season than it is not. But I did think it would be interesting to talk about some of the top 5 names that could be in the conversation to replace Mike McDaniel. But before we even get to that, I got to ask you this, and you guys need to make the call. Should the Dolphins fire Mike McDaniel? Type Y for yes, type N for no. It's today's pinned comment, and we put out a community post earlier in the week asking this question. 58% people said yes, but I want to see the people on this video and your thoughts. Well, my thoughts are very simple. It's yes. And I made this video on Monday. If you did not watch, make sure you are subscribed and you go watch that show, because I laid out very specifically in about 13 or 14 minutes why I think Mike McDaniel has to be fired. But we're going to do a little bit of a Sparks Notes version here for people who did not watch that video, because he is simply not good enough against top competition. Mike McDaniel, after the loss against the Texans in Week 15 last Sunday, is now 3-15 against teams with a winning record. He simply cannot coach versus good teams and good coaches on the other sideline when he gets matched up against them. And it's very obvious when you look at the offensive disparities between good teams and bad teams. And when you look at the last 10 games for the Miami Dolphins offensively against winning teams, it is horrible, horrible, horrible. The only 2 games where the offense performed was in Week 9 against the Bills and Week 8 against the Cardinals, where they scored 27 points in each of those 2 games. But we now know that the Bills' defense is absolutely horrific, and the Cardinals' defense is very, very bad. So it's not like you're going up against good units on that end of the football. But 12 points against the Texans in a must-win game, 17 against the Packers in a must-win, like, these are terrible. And when you look back at the end of last season in 2023, must-win games to try to clinch the division against the Bills in Week 18 and the Ravens in Week 17. You lost 56-19 to Baltimore, and you lost 21-14 against the Bills, and then laid an egg, as we all know, in the wild card game against the Chiefs, where you lost 26-7. The Dolphins simply need a culture shift. The fun, agile, explosive, shifty offense, it was fun for 2 years. But it's simple as this, in my opinion. The Dolphins' offense and all that motion and agility and finesse, it's been figured out. And they need a culture shift, not only to become a more physical team on the offensive side of the football field, but on the defensive side of the field. So we no longer have these late season collapses. We no longer have these no-shows in important games in late November and December when the most meaningful football is played. The team needs to toughen up, which is why the number one person on my list to replace Mike McDaniel, if they go that route, is none other than the former Tennessee Titans head coach, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, to me, is the best head coach candidate out there, regardless of what Miami needs, but in just absolute general. And you could talk about Ben Johnson from the Lions, who's the offensive coordinator. We will talk about him on today's show. But Vrabel is the number one guy. And you want to talk about a culture shift. Going from Mike McDaniel to Mike Vrabel would be a full 180. And it would be a 180 for the better. And I know a lot of people will point to, well, hey, remember when Brian Flores was head coach for the Dolphins and they got rid of him? Isn't Vrabel very similar to that? He is. Not as hardcore as Brian Flores, but he is pushing you in the right direction. Because I would rather have a coach like Brian Flores than Mike McDaniel. I think it's important to have player coaches. I think it's important to have the like of your players because they'll want to play for you. And you shouldn't just put a lot of negative hate on them like Flores did with Tua. I think Vrabel's that perfect happy medium. He can relate to the players. He was a player. He can be a player's coach, but he's also respected and a hard-nosed guy enough to have a more tough football team. I mean, you see his resume. He has a winning record in his career. He's 2-3 in the postseason, including an upset win against the New England Patriots in a wildcard game and an upset win against the Baltimore Ravens. He almost got them to the Super Bowl. They were competing with the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in an AFC Championship game, and he won Coach of the Year in 2021 when they grabbed the number one overall seed. Now, they did lose in the postseason in their first game that season against the Bengals, which was a disappointment, but he has an outstanding resume. And to me, you might ask, well, why did he get fired from Tennessee? Well, I think he got the raw end of the stick here because, to me, Mike Vrabel got blamed a lot for bad decisions made by that front office. They did not invest at wide receiver. They traded A.J. Brown to draft Treylon Burks. That was the end of that offense. The offense went from here to here once you traded A.J. Brown and added Treylon Burks. So if you keep A.J. Brown in Tennessee, well, the band might still be together for the Titans with Henry, Brown, Tannehill, Vrabel. But that's another aspect. Ryan Tannehill was cast out by Miami. They went with Tua Tagovailoa as their next future quarterback in the draft, which was the right decision. Tannehill was clearly not taking you anywhere. But Mike Vrabel coached a team that had Tannehill at the quarterback playing in an AFC Championship game that went on the road and won 2 playoff games. So Vrabel can take an average quarterback in the NFL and get them to play above average football and a winning brand of football when it matters most. He's done it in the past, which is why I think he would be the number one guy for the Miami Dolphins. Because I think he could have Tua do it, and I think he could really whip the culture in Miami into shape and get them into a better spot long term. Vrabel, my number one guy. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because if something happens in terms of coaching, we will have you covered. Hit that sub button today because we're still dropping daily content on the Miami Dolphins. Number 2 guy, which we mentioned, Ben Johnson. To me, these two are the top 2 head coach candidates, and it really isn't close. Belichick maybe could have been in the mix, but ever since he took the North Carolina job, it seems like these 2 guys are the top coach candidates no matter what. And he is an absolutely brilliant offensive mind. I mean, listen, I know some people may kind of get scared of hearing that because they're like, well, Mike McDaniel was a brilliant offensive mind, and that's who we just hired and who we're getting rid of. But Ben Johnson does it in a way different way. Ben Johnson schemes up a lot more of a stable offense. He does not do shotgun, pistol, a million different motions and predicate on speed. What is the key in Detroit for their offensive success? Well, it's their ability to run the football with a 2-headed monster of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and then utilize that into play action passing for Jared Goff. Hit him on Ross St. Brown over the middle of the field. Hit Sam Laporta over the middle of the field. Utilize Jamison Williams' speed on the outside, and then utilize Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery out of the backfield in the passing game. To me, he has constructed an offense that is every team's dream. And you see the numbers over the last 2 seasons in 2023 and 2024. Now, ironically enough, you see a lot of high numbers for the Lions in 2023. The team that they were behind in a lot of those metrics were the Miami Dolphins, but it is well documented that the Dolphins had the number 1 offense statistically last season. Obviously not the case this year. Well, this season for the Lions, it has been more of the same. Number 1 scoring team, number 2 in yards, number 2 in passing yards per game, and top 10 in rushing yards per game. He has built a sustained and elite offense in Detroit with a quarterback in Jared Goff that is not elite. He is not a top 5, top 6 transcendent offensive talent. He has built that offense in the trenches with a good offensive line, a stable running game, and a good passing scheme that plays on his quarterback strength of Jared Goff of throwing over the middle of the field in the play action game. The only concern I would have on hiring Ben Johnson is if that he is just another Mike McDaniel, someone who is really good at scripting plays and having an offensive scheme. Can he be a leader of men? Can he lead an entire locker room of 53 players on both sides of the football? I think that remains to be seen. That is why you have head coaching interviews. But to me, his offense is much more sustainable than Mike McDaniel's is, which is why I would be okay firing Mike McDaniel and going with Ben Johnson if he wanted to be your head coach, because he will be in hot demand and he will have his pick of the litter of the open jobs in the NFL. 3 more coaches to get to, but I do want to tell you about our sponsor, which is Game Time, the number 1 app to get tickets to live events, whether it's comedy shows, concerts, theaters, sporting events. And during the holiday season, be the legend. Be the person who gives the best gift that is a ticket to a live event. I did that. I got tickets to Timberwolves Mavericks Christmas Day basketball from me and my parents. They're going to look at me and be like, Nick, this is awesome. And you know what else is awesome? How easy it is to buy tickets on Game Time. Because with features like Game Time Picks that filters out the fluff to show the incredible deals on great seats, it's so easy to purchase tickets. Like, filters out the fluff. You don't have to waste time searching through tickets. They have a lowest price guaranteed. If you find a ticket on a different service that is lower in the same exact seat, same exact row, section, whole 9 yards, they will credit you 110% of the difference. You also get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. There's no better way to get tickets than with Game Time. Download the app today. Use code ChatSports when signing up to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. First purchase only. But use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to Game Time. What time is it? It's game time. Number 3 on my list, it's someone that I don't think is getting enough buzz as a potential head coach this cycle. It's actually Jesse Minter, the Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator. I'm really high on him. And I think he is not going to get a job this offseason. I would be shocked if he did. But if the Dolphins moved on from Mike McDaniel and missed out on Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson, my pick would be Jesse Minter. He, to me, is everything that the Dolphins could want if you do not get Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson. When you look at his career path over the last 5 stops, he was a Ravens assistant defensively in the secondary from 2017 to 2020. Then went to Vanderbilt to become their defensive coordinator before joining the other Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, at Michigan as his defensive coordinator in 2022 and 2023, and then followed him to the NFL to be the Chargers defensive coordinator this season. He has been with the Harbaughs for the last 8 years, besides 1 year when he was the Vanderbilt defensive coordinator. And there's the reason why I like that. This guy knows what it takes to lead a locker room. Is there any debate on the Harbaughs, John or Jim, being able to lead a locker room, run a tight program, tight ship, and win in tough conditions? I don't think there's a single person alive that would disagree with me on that. They might think they aren't as good as a coach as others, but I think everyone can agree they know how to have a sustained winning culture. John Harbaugh has been doing it in Baltimore for decades. Jim Harbaugh did it in San Francisco, did it at Michigan, and is now having the Chargers on the brink of the postseason in his first year as their head coach. Minter has been with them for the last 7 years. He knows how to handle tough conditions. He knows how to bring a locker room together, win in tough spots. Think about it. The Michigan cheating scandal last year. They still won a natty when that was all going on. Minter was there for that. Harbaugh was there for that. Minter knows how to get through that and have the outside noise get blocked out. To me, he would be a great hire if you didn't give Vrabel or Ben Johnson, because to me, he knows what it takes to go into battle late in the season in important games and perform, deliver, and get a win. If Mike McDaniel got fired, who would be your top replacement for him in Miami? Would it be one of the 3 names we've talked about, or would it be someone else? Let me know down in the comment section. A 4th name we're going to talk about is Joe Brady. He is the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator right now. And I got to be honest, Brady's 4th on my list. It's a tear break, though. Here's my thing. I would want Vrabel 1, Ben Johnson 2, Minter 3. But if you knew for an absolute fact you could not get one of those 3, I would rather have Mike McDaniel than any of the other names we were going to talk about. It's a clear break. I would like Minter to replace him. I would like Ben Johnson to replace him. I'd like Vrabel. I don't think Joe Brady would be an upgrade over Mike McDaniel. I don't think the last 2 names would be an upgrade either. But let's talk about Joe Brady because he is a hot name right now. He's been with the Bills since 2022, was the quarterback coach, became the interim Bills offensive coordinator when they let go of Ken Dorsey last season, and then has been the full-time OC this year, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He was also the Panthers offensive coordinator in 2020 to 2021, and the reason why he got that job is because he was with LSU in 2019. Yes, that's the infamous Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson team. He was the pass game coordinator and wide receiver coach. Well, so he coached up Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and led Joe Burrow to a record-setting year in a Heisman and a national championship. That's pretty good. But I will say this. Call it a gut feeling. There's no real science behind it. There's no real statistics to back it up. But sometimes you just get a gut feeling. I think everyone could go to this. And right now, my gut feeling is that if Joe Brady was hired as a head coach in the NFL, it'd be a disaster. I literally can't tell you a reason. But every journalist, everybody will tell you they get a random gut feeling on a topic or a subject at one point in their life. And I'm telling you, I have one on Joe Brady not being a good coach in the NFL as a head coach. Maybe I'm wrong. If he was hired as a Dolphins head coach, I'd hope to be wrong. But I just feel like it would be a disaster. But the resume does stick out, and it's the reason why he's top 5 on the list. Last name we'll talk about here is Aaron Glenn, another Detroit Lions coordinator. He is number 5 on the list. He is the defensive coordinator. He's intriguing. Why is he intriguing? Well, it's because if you actually look statistically at the Lions defense, it isn't very good. Like, they're average to below average in almost every statistic over the past 2 seasons. Now, a lot can be said about the injuries that they've endured, and this season I feel horrible for the Lions. I do, because to me they were set up to easily make a run to the Super Bowl in the NFC, but they have had more injuries to their defense than I have ever seen. I know the Dolphins had a ton of injuries last year to the defense. I've never seen anything like what's happening in Detroit. But there are raving reviews around the league about Aaron Glenn and his ability to lead a locker room and a defense. Then I think you'd have to give a look at him for sure. That's why he's number 5 on the list. He's not a top name for me. And I would rather probably keep Mike McDaniel than fire him and hire Aaron Glenn. But he is a name to monitor if you are looking at a replacement for Mike McDaniel. But let me name one more guy before we get out of here. A sneaky name. Someone on the roster. Someone on the organization. And your current defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver. And if you are changing it up, I think it's probably in the best interest of everyone to just kind of clean house. But I like what Anthony Weaver's done this season. I think he's been good as the defensive coordinator for the most part. And he's been talked about as someone that the players really like playing for. And they like his leadership ability. And Tom Pelissero had an article about potential head coach candidates in the future seasons to come. And Anthony Weaver was on the list as a top 10 guy. So it's clear NFL circles believe his time may come over the next 2 or 3 seasons as a head coach guy if he shows that he can be a good coordinator. So if the Dolphins did end up moving on from McDaniel, it wouldn't shock me if Anthony Weaver got a hard look from Stephen Ross. I'd probably rather still go outside the building, but he is a name to monitor. And if the Dolphins suck next season again and Mike McDaniel collapses down the stretch and he gets fired next season, then Anthony Weaver could be in line to be the replacement if he is having another good year as a defensive coordinator. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Dolphins Today. I know it was an intriguing one and a lot of hypotheticals, a lot of ifs, and this segment may remain moot as Mike McDaniel likely will probably just keep his job in the offseason. But I thought it would be fun to talk about here since a lot of us are talking about moving on from McDaniel. This is why you subscribe, though, because we're going to break down everything around the Miami Dolphins. So hit that sub button. All right, final segment down. Another $20 super chat from Mac Hudson. Shout out to you, Mac, with another 20. Sending 40 today. His second ever super chat. Appreciate you, Mac. Mac also just said in the chat, Nick, you need to start doing fan call-ins. So much to talk about. Love your show. Well, I know it's not call-in, and you're not actually calling in, but if you put comments in this YouTube, in the super chat, that's essentially the same thing. You can get across whatever your thoughts are and ask me a question, pose an idea. Like, you can put text in your super chats, Matt, and we can talk about them. So, it's not actual phone in, and we won't actually have a conversation, but we can still talk about something that you want to talk about or you want to ask about. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And also, since we're done with the show, we usually sign off, but I'll give it a couple minutes because we're $10 away from $50, and I said I would do a beer bong if we got to $50.
Want to put up a shot clock real quick?
Yeah, let's do a 2-minute shot clock.
Okay. He also said earlier, I'll keep sending if you agree the 3 heads of the snake need to go.
Who said that?
That was Mac.
What did he say? Sorry again? Say again?
I'm not sure what it means. Maybe you can enlighten me. Where is it? Where is it? He said, I'll keep sending if you agree the 3 heads of the snake needs to go.
Well, I'll say this, Mac. I'm never going to cater to someone just because they said they're going to super chat. I'm always just going to give my honest thoughts and opinions. I think 2 of the 3 need to go. I think Chris Grier needs to go. I think Mike McDaniel needs to go. I think Tua Tagovailoa is close to needing to go, but I'm not there yet. Does Tua not show up in bad game or good games? Occasionally. But I think a lot of that can be blamed on the offense that Mike McDaniel runs, the lack of ability to lean on a run game, and that is also because the offensive line stinks. So I think you could blame Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel for not having a sustained plan when you get into cold weather conditions and big-time environments. But I think Tua is partly to blame. Timothy, please stop spamming. There's no reason to spam Miami. Please stop. Please stop or you're going to get put in timeout. Oh, Cullen was quick to the trigger.
Come on, man.
No reason to come in and spam. Shot clock, minute 10 to go. Can we get $10 to get to $50 in super chats on the stream? That'd be greatly appreciated.
You hear something crazy?
Here's something crazy.
That last segment was longer than the second one. By 5
Stop.
seconds.
There's no way that was a 19-minute segment. Are you serious?
19:17. Yep.
I can't help myself. I can't. I really didn't think that was going to be that long. I actually, in my own head, tried to move it along in my because in your own head you think about how long you're spending on one thought, one topic of the show, because there's different topics in between each show, even though it's on one large topic.
Yep.
For example, Tyreek Hill. There's one Tyreek Hill trade topic, but in between that topic, there's contract situation, likelihood of him getting traded, what it would be, his stats, like, and you try to mentally spend a certain amount of time each there to bring it in. But man, I thought I was moving along much quicker in that segment. For you to tell me it was still the same / longer is crazy.
I mean, so I was obviously paying attention, and when it got to like 13, 14 minutes, because we were roughly at, we were out of the game time read. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll kind of speed through the last little bit. And then, yeah, just kind of kept going, and literally like final sub read, you made it over. I was impressed. I was like, wow. But shout out to everyone who came through. Great show as usual from South to West.
Appreciate that, South to West. Appreciate Mac Hudson for the $20 super chats. Appreciate the nice comment from Double S as well. I don't like putting down anyone else, but we do appreciate any love and support you guys throw my way. I'll never complain about that. It means I'm doing at least a good enough job to make some people enjoy our content and want to come back. So appreciate that. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everyone who tuned in and hung out with us. Next time we're going to be live is on Sunday for Dolphins 49ers. We will actually have producer Coop for that live show. I think it's the first time he's ever producing a Dolphins show with me. Might have done it in the past with Jake Reitmo or Will Scott, but with me, it's just that. Oh, and Davin, we talked about Waddle's injury news earlier. We're going to put out a video after the live show about that, so stay on the lookout for that, Davin. We'll be live on Sunday, an hour before kickoff, so 3:25 Eastern time for a 4:25 game. But we'll have videos every single day leading up to that game, so make sure you're subscribed. Peace out, folks. Go Fins.